All right, let's talk about Bridgestone. Now, you probably know them as the name on the tires of your car, right? The kings of asphalt. But what we're going to explore today is how this absolute giant is at a critical turning point, looking way, way beyond the roads we drive on every single day. So get this, the same company that spent a century perfecting the rubber tire is now designing a wheel for the moon. No, you heard that right. We're talking about tires for lunar rovers. And this isn't just some quirky side project. It's a huge symbol of a company going through a massive transformation. It's about figuring out the future of mobility here on Earth while literally reaching for the stars. So, to really understand what's going on, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. We'll start with their founding, then get into this Bridgestone 3.0 vision, their defense and offense strategy, check out their current numbers, and finally, look at the big challenges they're facing. Okay, Section 1, from founding to global giant. You know, to really get where a company is headed, you have to look at where it came from, its DNA. And for Bridgestone, that story kicks off all the way back in 1931. Bridgestone's history is really a story of a few huge game-changing moments. It all started in 1931 with a simple but powerful idea: a Japanese tire built with Japanese money and tech. Fast forward to '68, and their obsession with quality pays off big time. They win the super prestigious Deming Prize. But the real earthquake hit in 1988. They call it their second founding. That's when they bought the American icon, Firestone. And then, to top it all off, by 1997, they were battling it out on the world's biggest stage, Formula One, really cementing that premium brand image. And that mission they established back in '68? Contributing to society with the highest quality. Look, this wasn't just some corporate slogan to hang on a wall. It was the founders' core belief system. This almost fanatical focus on quality is what won them that Deming Prize. And honestly, it's still their North Star today. It is the absolute bedrock of the company. And that Firestone deal, we have to talk about the sheer scale of it. $2.6 billion in 1988. That was the biggest overseas buyout by any Japanese company ever at that time. I mean, just think about that. It was a massive, massive bet that instantly catapulted them into the global top 3. It's what made them the giant they are today. All right, Section 2, the third founding, or Bridgestone 3.0. So we've had the first founding as a Japanese company, the second as a global player, and now they're in the middle of what they call their third founding. This is their big, ambitious game plan for the 21st century. In this new vision, it's a fundamental shift in who they are. They're moving away from just being a tire manufacturer. Instead, they want to be a sustainable solutions company. So what does that even mean? It means they're thinking about the entire life of a tire, from the moment it's made to how you use it, and crucially, what happens to it at the very end. So they've broken this down into 3 big steps. First, you've got create and sell. That's their bread and butter, right? Making and selling awesome tires. Then comes use. This is where it gets interesting. They're adding things like data services and fleet management while the tire is actually on the road. And then the last step, return, is the real revolutionary part. They are pioneering technology to take old, worn-out tires and turn them back into raw materials. That's how you build a real circular economy. Okay, Section 3, management of defense and offense. So that big vision is great for the long term. But what about right now? The world is a crazy place, and they're under immense pressure. This brings us to their immediate strategy, which they've cleverly framed as a game of defense and offense. And they are not messing around. They have literally called 2025 an emergency crisis response year. That's how seriously they're taking things. They're facing what's basically a perfect storm of challenges. You've got geopolitical tariffs, the massive shift to EVs, and a flood of low-cost competition. For them, it's pretty simple. Adapt now or get left in the dust. So how do you fight a war on multiple fronts? With a 2-part strategy. On the one hand, they're playing defense. Think of it as reinforcing the castle walls, restructuring, cutting costs, and doubling down on that legendary quality control. But at the same time, they are playing hard offense. They're sending out the knights to capture new territory, pushing innovative premium products, growing their business-to-business solutions, and really focusing on growth markets like the US and India. Okay, Section 4, current performance and financial strategy. Now for the big question. Is any of this defense and offense stuff actually working? Well, the numbers don't lie. So let's dive into their latest earnings report and see what's really going on. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. At first glance, you see revenue is down a bit, about 3%. You might think, uh-oh, but then you look at the adjusted operating profit and it's up 2%. So what does that tell us? It tells us the defense strategy is working. They're becoming more efficient, focusing on high-margin products, and basically making more money even while selling a little bit less. That's smart business. And when you look at where that money is coming from, one thing is crystal clear. The Americas are an absolute behemoth for Bridgestone. We're talking nearly half of their entire revenue. Japan is still a major piece of the puzzle, for sure, but the company's fate is really truly tied to how well they do in North and South America.
If you want proof that the tough decisions are paying off, look no further than Europe. Their profit margins there jumped by a massive 2.7 percentage points. Now, Europe has always been a tough market for them, so this is a huge deal. It shows that all that painful restructuring is starting to bear real fruit. Yeah, Japan took a bit of a hit, but the turnaround in Europe is a fantastic sign that the strategy is working where it matters most.
So what's the bottom line for investors? Well, Bridgestone is basically screaming that they are laser-focused on making every dollar count. They're zeroing in on key performance metrics, trimming fat from their balance sheet, and, this is the big one, they are aggressively giving cash back to shareholders. We're talking a massive 300 billion yen share buyback and a nice bump in the dividend. That is a huge vote of confidence from the top brass. All right, last section, Section 5, Challenges for the Future. We've looked at the numbers, now let's look at the really cool stuff, the futuristic, boundary-pushing innovations that Bridgestone is betting on to define its next 100 years. I mean, just look at this pipeline. It's wild. You've got the EverTire initiative, which is their moonshot to create a perfectly circular tire economy. They're using the insane world of motorsports as a super-fast R&D lab. They're developing puncture-proof, air-free tires. And, oh yeah, they're working with Japan's space agency to build tires that can survive on the moon. This is their offense strategy in its purest, most ambitious form. And talk about putting your money where your mouth is. After a 15-year break from the top tier, Bridgestone is making a huge comeback to World Championship racing. But here's the twist. It's not Formula One. This time, it's Formula E, the all-electric series. You couldn't ask for a more perfect strategic move. It lines up exactly with their focus on EVs and sustainable tech. It's brilliant. So that leaves us with this incredible question. In an age of constant disruption, how does a company that's nearly 100 years old manage this insane balancing act? On one hand, they have to perfect the rubber tire for the electric vehicles of today. And on the other hand, they're literally inventing the wheel for the moon rovers of tomorrow. How they pull that off? Well, that could very well shape the future of how we all get around.